Hi everyone, I hope everyone is doing really very well. Welcome to 21st November 2024 Daily Decodes, and I hope everyone is doing really well. So we are at Daily Decodes where we daily decode the Hindu newspaper, and today is 21st November. Good morning to everyone, and I hope everyone is doing really well. We start with the thought for the day, and we have a wonderful quote from Cristiano Ronaldo. If whoever follows football, even if you don't follow football, definitely you must be knowing two famous players of today's era, that is Messi and Ronaldo. So if you don't believe you are the best, then you will never achieve all that you are capable of. So this is basically telling us that until unless the belief system is not working for you, or you don't have belief in things, things will not happen for you. So it is very important that you believe in the system. Once you believe in the system here means you. Once you start believing in yourself, once you start putting efforts, things will definitely happen. If you yourself do not believe that you cannot clear the UPSC exam, or you cannot clear any examination which you are sitting for, or whatever you dream for, then it will not happen. And when you want to clear that examination, it is very important to think that you want to be best, because when you try for the best, when you want to be the topmost, you will put a lot of effort in achieving, and definitely success will come your way. So everyone, please do like the session, share the session, and definitely do press the bell icon. You will get the PDF. If the PDF is not uploaded till now, the PDF would be uploaded in some hours in the description. So you'll get the PDF. Don't worry about it. And I hope the audio and video is clear. Okay. Okay. Now moving further with the important news for today, that is Prime Minister proposes 7 key pillars to strengthen the ties between India and CARICOM. India and CARICOM, that is Caribbean Community and Common Market. Okay. Caribbean Community and Common Market. We'll discuss what is CARICOM also. Then we have UNICEF report, today's children face unprecedented hazards. India-Australia firm up clean energy partnership. Then in editorial we have the long fight for accessibility, dignity in Indian prisons. Yesterday also we had editorial about the Indian prisons where we were talking about the tracking devices. Today in this we will talk about what is the condition of prisons in India specifically for disabled people, and specifically two examples. We'll take the examples of Professor J.N. Sai Baba, and we'll also take the example of Father Stan Swami. These are two prominent examples when we talk about accessibility, dignity in Indian prisons. Then we'll have standard Q&A, tidbits, and extra mile, which we will cover. Okay. So let's move further in this. So the Prime Minister proposes seven key pillars to strengthen ties between India and CARICOM. And here you can see the Prime Minister Modi with the Guyana President Mohammad Irfan Ali on his arrival. So now this person is very important. Who is he? This person is President Mohammad Irfan Ali, and the Prime Minister was in Georgetown, Guyana. We'll also see the map location of this particular area, this particular country. But if you see, the Prime Minister just is having or just completing, or maybe he'll be traveling to other countries, but currently he did three important things. So it was a whirlwind tour right now for the Prime Minister. First he went to, he was in Nigeria. And we had covered, with the Nigeria, we have a lot of expatriate population we had covered in Daily Decodes. So he was in Nigeria. From Nigeria, he went to Brazil, where he attended the G20 summit in Rio de Janeiro. And in this summit, he has met lot of leaders. He had met, apart from the G20 summit, on the sidelines, he met the Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, the French President Macron, Joe Biden, Xi Jinping, lot of meetings then happened. So this was happening apart from the G20 summit. And now the third country he is visiting is your Guyana. Guyana also has a lot of expatriate population, Indian population there. And most importantly, this is a visit of Indian Prime Minister in more than 50 years. In more than 50 years to this particular part. And why Guyana is important? If you see geopolitically, this is a very important location. It is on the backyards of the America. So in that way, geopolitically, strategically, it is a very important point. And India has given a lot of credit line to around $150 million was given. COVID vaccines were given. So the relationship between India and Guyana is very good. So if you see the map location, this is your Guyana. Okay, and this is Georgetown, where the Prime Minister was there and meeting the President, and finally of Guyana. This is Venezuela, Brazil, then Suriname, and this is your Atlantic Ocean. So these are the surrounding countries. So I hope you have an idea which are the surrounding countries if asked in the examination. Okay, now KCOM, which stands for Caribbean Community and Common Market. So around 15 countries are part of it, or 15 members are part of it. That is your Antigua and Barbuda, Bahamas, Belize, Dominica, Grenada, Guyana, Haiti, Jamaica, and so on and so forth. And this community was formed in 1973. What is the focus of this community? Common market, more investment. That is the major focus of this community. And when was it formed? In 1973. Okay. So remember this again, because these kind of community or these organizations, these are standard prelims question which come, and that is what we covered. UPSC prelims impact every day. That one important information from prelims perspective is covered in the lecture, be it coming from polity, international affairs, or any other side. Now, it is an organization of Caribbean countries and dependencies originally established as the Caribbean Community and Commons Market in 1973 by the Treaty of Chaguaramas. Okay, so this treaty is very important. Treaty of Chaguaramas. Okay, chairman of the community, it keeps rotating every 6 months. And other thing is that it is a single market. So it is a single market, and economy are intended for the benefit of people of the region by providing more investment, more opportunities. So for example, European Union obviously is on a very different level. So these are countries which have come together. They have created a kind of union or kind of group they have created, and then they deal. Like you have ASEAN out there, in which they also do similar things. Obviously the goals are very different, but in this their major focus is single market and economy, and are intended to benefit the people of region by providing more and more better opportunities. See, when a country goes, for example, there is a country and it goes to the other country and says that, we can have free trade agreement, we can have trade. But there is a group, 15 countries. So 15 countries going to one country or talking to the leader of that country, the 15 countries will have more leverage power, because they will say that you will get the market of 15 countries compared to one country. So this is a way, that is why many countries come together. And if some country is very weak, say economically, or it is weak in their market or in technology, when 15 countries come together, they can help each other. So in that way, these groups works much better. So that is why 7 pillars were spoken about the Prime Minister to strengthen India CARICOM. So Prime Minister proposed 7 key pillars. Specifically, he was focusing on economic cooperation, economic cooperation, okay, health, science, among others. The pillars aim to fortify SMEs, that is small and medium enterprises. India is also talking about that India will be investing in the SMEs in Guyana, or in this CARICOM community, India would be investing. So if you see, India is planning to invest in Africa, India is planning to invest in the Caribbean side, that is around your South America. So if you see holistically, comprehensively, India is in the age, or India is in the decade when it is growing. It's, its global power is growing, because since everything is eventually dependent upon money, everything is eventually dependent on economy. So once you get a good leadership, once you get a good government, stable government, money, and these kind of investments starts happening, and it will overall, in the overall architecture, there is a rise of India, which everyone talks about. If you see videos on YouTube, Instagram, everyone from international analysts, they talk about that today there's a rising India, and India first of all talks about its own interest, and it cannot be belittled by any of the developed nation. So pillars aim to fortify partnership in key areas, that is SME, then you have agriculture, then you have food, then you have renewable energy, and the promotion of 5 T's also was spoken about. 5 T stands for trade, they stand for trade, technology, tourism, talent, and tradition. So 5 T's are trade, technology, tourism, talent, and tradition were identified as the focal point. So we'll focus on trade, then we'll focus on technology more. Obviously, India is more in technology compared to Guyana, so we'll invest in the technology, help them. Tourism, talent, and tradition, which can work both ways. PM proposed for the creation of an online portal to connect private sectors and stakeholders. So why online portal? Because the private players from Indian side and the private players from the Guyana side or the CARICOM, they can come on an online portal, they can talk to each other, stakeholders, and more investment and business can happen on the both sides, and it will help the participating countries. So summit was held in Georgetown, Guyana, marking the first visit of Indian head of state to Guyana in more than 50 years. I've already covered. Discussion centered around economic cooperation, it centered around trade, it centered around health, agricultural, technology, and innovation. PM emphasized creation of a strategic framework collaboration specifically between CARICOM and India. So we have covered this. Let's move on. So commitment to small and medium enterprises. So India is also opening a line of credit with $1 million grant for SME announced at the previous India CARICOM meeting. He emphasized the need to implement the committee for greater impact. Okay. And why the line of credit? So India has been giving line of credit. If you see, we have also given the line of credit to Maldives also. We have given a line of credit. So we had that problem of President Mohammad Muzi came, he was anti-India, and over a period of time, we have seen that he has taken a U-turn and he realized the importance of India. Similarly, Bangladesh will also take a U-turn. It is just a matter of time. If you have heard the news, Pakistani merchant vessel has docked at Bangladesh ports. So this is making very much international news, or in international arena everyone is talking about, because the kind of relation Pakistan used to have with Bangladesh in Sheikh Hasina regime is now changing under the advisor Muhammad Yunus. So India's contribution during the COVID-19 pandemic. So Guyana President Irfan Ali expressed gratitude because we were the first ones, especially for developing the first set of vaccines to the regions in COVID-19 pandemic. Then previous engagement in 2000 meeting also happened between the CARICOM heads of government and PM during the 74th UNGA, discussed renewable energy, and that is where we had given a back by $150 million of line of credit. So this I have already told you. Okay. Now next is diaspora correction. So we have more than 3,20,000 individuals which play a pivotal role in fostering cultural ties between India and this particular area. Tour of other nations that I've already covered. We have the Prime Minister of the country was earlier in Nigeria, where he met the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Then he was in Brazil for the Rio at the Rio de Janeiro for the G20 summit, and now at Guyana. So it was a whirlwind tour he was in. So strategic importance. So geopolitical significance, I've already told you this is a very important area strategically. It is very important. If you see that APEC summit was done in Peru at the capital Lima, the Xi Jinping was there, Joe Biden was there, and that at that particular place in Lima, there is a port being made. The port was inaugurated by Xi Jinping. So strategically, geopolitically, it is a very important area because it is in the backyards of the Americans. So presence in the strategically located Caribbean region, and if India has a presence there, it will help us. If not right now, it can help us in future. I am talking strategically, militarily. Okay. Economic opportunities for our businesses, since we are giving credit lines, and we with CARICOM there are more than 15 members. So our businesses, our entrepreneurs will get access to this market for enhancing their business. Cultural linkages, a significant Indian diaspora provide robust foundation for deepening relationship. What happens is that if your diaspora is already there, so they know how Indians work, how Indian thinks. If you take the example of America, Indian Americans are taken as top CEOs. Those people who are very hardworking, very good in education, focus is on education. Just think about what is the image of Pakistanis and Khalistanis, and compare this with the Indians, how we are doing there, how we have contributed in the American economy, how Donald Trump talks about it, or for that matter, how even Democrats talk about it. So this is the kind of image India takes, or Indians take, with putting a lot of effort and helping in their economy. So good effort from both sides, and I hope this grows. So in the mains question, I've added discuss the significance of India's engagement with CARICOM. You can go through the question, and rest of the information would be given in the PDF which you can use. Okay. Hi sir, hi. Is this helpful in the SSB? Yes. See, news is always helpful in the SSB. If you're preparing for any examination or any interview, since SSB is a 5 days interview, you'll have to go for group discussion, lecturates, and even if you are making a story for your PPDT or TAT, you need to have good ideas. So current affairs is always helping, and day-to-day analysis is very important for any examination. So be it CDS, NDA, SSB, or the psychometric and the interview techniques. So definitely it is very important. So next is your planetary crisis put children at risk. A very important UNICEF report has come. Now this report has lot of data, okay, lot of data which you can use in your UPSC mains examination also, or if you are in an interview, you can talk about this particular data. But lot of this fetching of data can help you in making a good answer. So UNICEF State of World Children Report. So this is 2024 report, and as per this report, the condition of children in coming future looks very dilapidating. The report does not show very good numbers for us. So it states that it highlights the challenges faced, specifically 3 challenges which children will face. That is your demographic shift, that is the first challenge. Second challenge is climate and environmental crisis. This is the second challenge they will face, and it will lead to 3 long-term global forces. These are 3 important challenges which would be challenging children. And third is frontier technologies. What are frontier technologies? So demographic shifts, climate and environmental crisis, most of us know. What are frontier technology? Artificial intelligence is a frontier technology, and technology which will come in future, okay, which is a very front-end technology which has pros and cons. So if you do not work on the cons, they can harm children. So nearly 1 billion children live in countries at high risk of climate and environmental hazards. The report projects profound impact on children's lives by 2050, emphasizing the need for global action. So if we are not working on these 3 parameters, demographic shifts, climate and environmental crisis, and frontier technology, the havoc on children which will come would be immense. So key highlights: impact of climate and environmental crisis. So what are the major problems? Climate destabilization, biodiversity collapse, and pollution are intensifying globally. Children would be definitely impacted. Obviously, if you see the major area of children would be impacted would be their brains, lungs, immune system. Just see the example of what is happening in North India. Apart from children, adults are getting impacted in. So right now in Delhi, doctors are talking about that if you can leave Delhi and go to some other state specifically for the coming 3-4 months, and this news comes every year from the last 5 or 7 years, this news comes that if you have the capability, money, you can leave Delhi, you can and go to some other city, and live there, if you want to have, a peaceful and rather a healthy life. So if it is impacting adults, the impact of this pollution, this climate change would be very high on children. First. Second, the COP29 was at Baku, Azerbaijan, and we thought, that there would some good result will come out of the Baku summit or the COP29 summit, but as usual, nothing came. It was a lackluster event. Most of the presidents and prime ministers of the powerful country were not present. Trump has come. Trump does not even believe in climate change. Rather, he was giving, his during his campaign speeches, he used to say, he would be focusing on drilling, he would be focusing on fossil fuels, because he believes that currently the renewable energy cannot give the amount of economic prowess we need, or the economic growth which we need. It cannot come from renewable energy. We are not at that point, though it's a very different thing. Elon Musk, which is partner, focuses on EV. But anyways, so since we are not working on global greenhouse gas emissions, global warming, climate change, we are only having meetings, and again we thought some funds will come, but none of the funds are coming till now. In that sense, if that is not happening, so climate change is also happening. The global heat is also going up. Number of cyclones and hurricanes are also increasing, and all this will have impact on adults. If it is having an impact on adults, the impact on children would be much more drastic in nature. So again, that is why I wanted to draw this parallels. If the impact on adults is 10, the impact on children would be 50, 70 or even 100. So children's developing bodies, brains, lungs and immune system and uniquely vulnerable to hazards like air pollution. So they would be, drastically hit with this. Rising temperature increases mosquito, and if the mosquito population increases, then you have malaria, dengue and Zika. So this will start happening. Floods, contaminated water will lead to waterborne diseases. Now, if you see malaria, dengue and Zika, waterborne diseases, extreme weather limits food production. So, food insecurity would be there. Water contamination will lead to water diseases, that may affect children under 5, then malaria, dengue and Zika. So, see, the climate change will have so much of impact. Malaria, dengue, Zika, then waterborne diseases, then the extreme weather events will lead to food insecurity. All this will impact children. So that is what the UNICEF reports talks about. Now, what are the projections for 2050s? So one positive news which is coming is that newborn survival rates will increase by 98%. The expectancy of the girls would be around 81% and boys would be around 76%. This is a positive news. But now they have survived. After surviving, you need to take care of lot other things. You need to take care of food, you need to take care of waterborne diseases, you need to take care of other problems which we have discussed, pollution. So survived they have, but they might not be able to survive in the coming years. So despite these improvements, more children will face extreme climate hazards than in the 2000s. So what we faced in 2000 or children faced in 2000, in 2024 and in future, they would be facing even a harsher environment, because at the end of the day, we are only having climate change or COP29, or we'll have COP30 next year, only meetings, but we are not taking drastic steps to overcome that. Over 400 million students globally have already experienced school closure. Now, school closure happens because of these extreme weather events. When school closure happens, what will happen? Their education will get affected. Once their education will get affected, these are the same students which would have gone to do their schooling, then gone to do their graduation, and eventually would help in the economic development of the nation. But if their school years are getting wasted, they cannot become a good population dividend in terms of good workforce. That will not happen. That will start delaying. So in that area also, it would be violating child rights and hindering economic growth of the nation. For example, say 1 lakh students should have graduated this year in 2024 because of some weather event. Now they would be graduating after 2 years. So that would be affecting the previous classes also, and that would be affecting this year also. That is exactly what it is talking about. And in overall growth of the children in their career, that will also get affected apart from their health. Child population and regional trends. Global child population is expected to stabilize at 2.3 billion by 2050, and the major regions where it will grow: South Asia, Eastern and Southern Africa, Western and Central Africa. They would have the largest child population. Now you see these areas. These are the most economically deprived areas. They don't have major resources, and they would have the highest child population. So again, a bad news coming. South Asia, Eastern and Southern Africa, West and Central Africa, largest child population. They have significant challenges. They have climate change problem. They have economic problems, inadequate digital infrastructure, unmet basic needs. They don't have food, water, housing. That is, so when you don't have these things, how would the children survive? And this digital infrastructure, this will create a huge gap between developed and these LDCs, least developing countries. Urbanization and digital exclusion. By 2050, 60% of children will live in urban areas from 44% in 2000. So 60% of children would be living in urban areas. You see the problem of urban areas. Currently, if you see India's urban areas, you see Bangalore, Delhi and other areas. If you see these areas are getting oversaturated with population. And if I take the example of Delhi, Delhi is oversaturated right now. Children who are staying there, it is affecting their health, it is affecting, the pollution is affecting everything. Now schools are being closed. So school syllabus will get completed late. Again, what we have discussed in the last slide, same problem. And this is constantly happening in our country. So while high income countries have over 95% internet connectivity, 26% of low income countries are connected. So this is a digital divide. For example, today we need internet to do things. For example, say that internet in India is not there for the coming 6 months. Do you know what will happen? In 6 months, the world will move forward. And in 6 months, you need to catch up so much. You need to catch up so much that by the time you catch up for 6 months, the world would be moving forward. So this is the kind of that research and development divide. In research and development, what the European world have done, and they have moved forward. And that is why you just think and you just go through the data, how many Nobel Science Prizes have been given to India. I'm not talking about Indian Americans, Indian Europeans, specifically to an Indian. How many years have passed that we have got a Nobel Prize, not Nobel Peace Prize, Nobel Prize in Sciences. So that divide is there in research and development. So this digital divide will increase even at faster pace. So that is what the author is talking about. Digital exclusion risk exacerbating inequalities in the region with rapidly growing child population. Frontier technologies. Now everyone likes artificial intelligence, OpenAI, wonderful technologies. It has a lot of pros, but it also has a lot of cons. For example, when social media was happening, everybody likes social media. But there are a lot of cons. Sexual abuse happens, digital abuse happens, and most of the people who are affected by it are students. Students get affected by it. So innovations like AI, neurotechnology, renewable energy and vaccines breakthrough could improve childhood conditions. This is the positive. Problem, sexual exploitation, abuse. And I'm not talking this will happen. This is already happening. This is already happening. There are multiple examples. There was a news that the Google Gemini had recommended, the AI product of Google Gemini had recommended that to a student or to a person who was talking to him that you should die. That is what it recommended. And Google said that, this is a nonsense response. So that is, AI technology is developing, but I'm giving you example, it is not foolproof. And the miscreants can use this technology. They are already doing a lot of, cyber crimes. So exploiting children would be easy. Socio-economic condition. Now this is where the dichotomy is there. 23% of children will live in low-income countries compared to 11% in 2000. So in low-income countries which do not even have the basic needs which needs to be met for children, their population of children is increasing and they need these resources the most. So this is a drastic, figure which is going, down the drain. And if you see, GDP per capita is expected to be more than double. So our GDP is increasing, but the condition of children are decreasing. So this is a huge dichotomy. This is a huge, differences of zenith and nadir which we are seeing in this report. I hope some positive things comes out in future. So now we have a prelims related question to this. Okay, that says by 2050 more than 50% of the global child population will live, rather it's more than 60%. So first statement is correct. Digital exclusion risk exacerbating inequalities in region with rapidly growing child population, correct. Newborn survival rates are expected to increase over 98% with life expectancy rising to 81 years for girls. Obviously this is also correct. So all these statements related to this question are correct. So discuss the challenges highlighted in UNICEF's State of the World Children 2024 report related to demographic shifts, climate crisis, frontier technology. Suggest measures to address these challenges and build a secure future for children by 2050. It's a wonderful question. This report is very important for all the UPSC aspirants. Obviously, these numbers and these statistics are given. You can download this PDF. It will help you. And if you want to write in your notes, that also you should definitely do. Now next, India-Australia form up renewable energy partnership. So again, a very positive news coming this meet also with the Australian Prime Minister is Anthony Albanese. So Prime Minister Modi met Anthony Albanese and at the sidelines of the G20 summit, and they are working on the deal which is known as Renable Energy Partnership. Have strengthened their bilateral relationship with an ambitious renewable energy partnership. This is focusing on renewable energy. Second is that focus on comprehensive economic cooperation agreement. So they have not signed SECA, they want to sign SECA. So this is what happens, first it would be you're talking about a trade agreement, and as and when the relationship between countries improve, as and when there's a mutual trust and respect, the relationship goes through better economic cohesion. So development were announced during the India-Australia annual conclave held on the sidelines of G20 summit. That is what I am trying to say, that Prime Minister was on a whirlwind tour. Just imagine in last couple of days he has been traveling from Nigeria to Rio to Guyana, and he's meeting so many dignitaries. It's not that he's sleeping there. So this requires a huge amount of effort, and that is why it is praisable in the sense that a lot of deals and positive things are coming out. And again, when it on Australia, in yesterday Daily Decodes, I had told you that, with the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, we spoke about education, and I gave you the example of Canada, why we are focusing so much on education. We spoke about education with UK, and we did the same thing with the Australians also. The slide will come. So this meeting happened, the discussion were focusing on renewable energy. Obviously, if there is a deal on renewable energy, we'll focus on renewable energy, then critical minerals, and again, our favorite, education. Now education has become a very much focus, because since the Canadians are working, or the Trudeau is working on, cutting the Indian students. So Indian students have money, they want to go study abroad. So Prime Minister is trying to open more avenues for students to go abroad, be it United Kingdom, be it England, or be it Italy, or for that matter, even the Australia. Many students already go to Australia. So this is more strengthening. And renewable energy will focus on solar energy, green hydrogen, energy storage, investment in renewable projects. And the next important part, which the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Anthony Albanese of Australia spoke, was on comprehensive economic cooperation agreement. This will happen in coming time. Even in the example, rather not an example, since Prime Minister Modi also met the Prime Minister of UK, that is Keir Starmer, and there also we are working on the free trade agreement. Keir Starmer was telling that I want to complete the free trade agreement, which was the previous Prime Minister Rishi Sunak was working upon it, and I think as the relationship improves, I think it should happen in the future. And with the coming of Trump, which would be much more focused on trade, I think trade agreements and economic cooperation in the world should improve if we are able to overcome these wars, which is currently not in a good shape, specifically Russia, Ukraine. Now, comprehensive economic cooperation agreement, both sides are working on ambitious and mutually beneficial SECA, building on momentum of 2022. So we already have this economic cooperation and trade agreement, which is known as ECTA. ECTA we already have. Now we want to increase it and move towards SECA. So what will happen once you have these comprehensive agreements? You get special economic zones, and the tariffs are reduced. As and when you move, more and more benefits on both sides will come. So post-ECTA bilateral trade has increased to 40% in the last 2 years between India and Australia. So when SEPA is signed, when SECA is signed, the trade would even move further. That is the thought process of the countries on both sides. Okay. You guys are understanding? Great. So defense and security collaboration. So I think India is working with defense and security with most of the countries. Defense, Italy, they are already working. UK, they are already working. Italy, with yesterday in Daily Decodes, we had discussed in detail. We are working on defense. And I gave you the example that the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz was in India some time back. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez was in India. Again, when it comes to defense, suddenly all these European countries are interested, because they want to take the cut of that pie, because India spends hugely on defense. So earlier it was going to Russia, then came the Americans, then came the Israels, and now Europeans have realized that we cannot be dependent on the Chinese or the any other market. India is a very important market. Slowly but certainly the Europe is realizing. They used to write in reports in some corners, but now they are realizing that the future is Asia, and the country they can be dependent upon, which is democratically very close to their values, is India. It's not China. Okay. And they have tried, they've burnt their hands with BRI, like Italy has burnt its hands with BRI. It was the only G7 member which was part of BRI. BRI is Belt and Road Initiative of China. Italy is out of it. Brazil has also said namaste to it, and it is also out of it. So many countries are out of it. Now, economic growth and investment between India and Australia. So we have something called Make in India, and Americans have Future Made in Australia. Or even if you say the MAGA campaign of Americans, make America great again, this is again, most of the countries are ready to do trade. We are talking about Make in India, we are talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, that we need to make our country strong. That does not mean that we will not have trade with other countries. We just want to make our products good, better. So the prime ministers on both the side complimented each other, and they said Make in India and Future Made in Australia. They have something called Future Made in Australia. It's similar to our only. So they complementary each other, create new jobs and unlock economic growth, greater facilitate two-way investment through SECA and EPTA, which we have done in the past. SEPA and EPTA. Indo-Pacific vision. Now, Indo-Pacific vision is very important in terms of Quad. That is Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, India, Australia, Japan, and the Americans. Now, why do we need that Indo-Pacific should have, it should have free sea lanes of communication, trade should happen, and the Australian Prime Minister, the Anthony Albanese, spoke about UNCLOS. So UNCLOS is basically a law. It came in 1982. It talks about law and order in this oceans and how there should be, free sea navigation and how it can be used. I've added these lines. What is UNCLOS? United Nations Convention on Law of Seas, adopted in 82. It lays down a comprehensive regime of law and order in the world sea lanes. So you can go through it. It's already been added in the PDF. So peaceful Indo-Pacific, integrity law, freedom of navigation. Which country they are targeting? China. Because what is China doing in South China Sea? Creating artificial islands. What they want to choke? Probably if in future they realize that they would want to choke the Indian Ocean. And that is what, to counter to it, we can also choke the Malacca Strait. And if we choke the Malacca Strait, because 80 to 85% of Chinese trade passes to Malacca. So if you stop it, that is what is called as Malacca Dilemma, which China always thinks about, and that is why they started, BRI in the first place, one of the reasons. So Indo-Pacific vision, again, the commitment towards Quad. Indian PM emphasized resolving global conflicts through dialogue and diplomacy. Last year also the Prime Minister had said, even at G20 later, that this is an era of economy, this is not an era of war. Similar kind of similar statements he had given later also. This was basically in context of Russia-Ukraine war. And you must have realized that in the coming days and coming 6 months, 8 months, the importance of Russia-Ukraine war is how it was being spoken about last year has come very much down. As these major international events are happening, BRICS event happened, now your G20 happened, the statements again Russia and Ukraine are coming very less. More or less people want to resolve it, and I hope it gets resolved in coming future. Squad partnership I've discussed. Indian community in Australia, very important statement. Albanese committed to protecting the interest of Indian diaspora Australia, particularly students. Why students? Again, the Canadian example which I gave you tomorrow. What is Trudeau doing against Indian students in Canada? So be it Italy, be it UK, be it Australia, the Prime Minister is currently talking about education, Indian students who wants to go abroad and study and make a future there. So with this, we complete this news and come to the last news. That is the editorial for today, the long fight of accessibility, dignity in Indian prison. So wonderful article. It talks about the condition of disabled prisoners in jail. Yesterday also we had discussed an editorial on prison. It was more about tracking device. It was also talking about that our prisons are filled more than 131%. So at 100, say if there is 100%, 131%. So 31% more prisoners are there. Today we will deal in this particular editorial specifically to your jails and prisons in detail. So long fight for accessibility and dignity in Indian prisons. So prisoners who are there, for example, the case of Professor G.N. Sai Baba, then Father Stan Swami. So Father Stan Swami was suffering from Parkinson's disease. Even then he was not given a straw. Professor G. N. Sai Baba needed wheelchair, even then he was not given, and only the fellow prisoners were helping him. So we have dilapidating conditions of our jail, and forget about, the average prisoner who is healthy, he does not get the basic needs. So when it comes to disabled prisoner, they getting their basic needs is out of question. It does not happen. The condition is very pathetic in nature. Multiple reports have come. So Indian prisons have long been criticized for inhumane condition, with prisons with disabilities facing even greater challenges. So the challenge is already for normal prisoners also, which are not disabled. Disabled, even the situation is worse. Okay. Case of Professor G. N. Sai Baba, who endured years of abuse due to lack of wheelchair accessibility, highlights the systematic neglect faced by the disabled persons. Despite international, so you have multiple international laws, you have Nelson Mandela guidelines, but you have Indian guidelines, but none of them are being followed. The structure of our jails and prisons are dilapidating in nature. Huge amount of investment needs to be done. MHA reports have come, MHA guidelines are there, but they are not being implemented. That is the problem. So it is something like that, we have multiple acts, but the execution by the executive agency on ground is pathetically very poor. Okay, so Mullah Committee, see, from 1980 we are starting. 1980 Mullah Committee said comprehensive prison reforms, but implementation has been minimal. It is not minimal, it is abysmal. Then in Ramamurthy vs. State of Karnataka 1996 case, Supreme Court directed reforms to address overcrowding, trial delays, torture. So these they did in 1986. Trust me, in 2024, this is only exacerbated, this has only augmented. It has not been resolved. So this problem of overcrowding, this problem of trial delays, torture and neglect, it still continues. Probably it might have increased. It has overburdened and error in human conditions. Okay, so just now the statistical number for every aspirant, 5.73 lakh prisoners are housed in facilities designed for only 4.36 lakhs prisoners. Now I'll try to explain this. If you've traveled in Delhi metro, or for example in Bengaluru, the metro is new, so it is mostly the crowd in the Bengaluru metro is relatively less. In Delhi, over a period of time, it has expanded. So for example, if a particular coach, so there are 8 coaches if I'm correct in the Delhi metro. So if one coach would have say around, you can have say 80 to 100 people in it, but sometimes it goes to 200 and 300. So you don't even have the space to breathe. Now, why I am giving this example, say you have to live in this environment for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 5 years, 7 years. How claustrophobic will you feel? Obviously, it would not be 300 in this case, but the conditions are like this only. So this example I am giving you so that you can understand, I am trying to draw parallels with you. So with many prisons are operating at 100% or many at 200% capacity. That means if there should be 100 prisoners in that, you have 200. So obviously they don't have resources for 100 prisoners. How will 200 come? So that is the major problem happening. Okay. So disabled prisoners face specific challenges, more challenges for them. Physical abuse happens, neglect happens, lack of assistive devices. They hardly have jails, hardly have these wheelchairs, inaccessible toilets and living spaces. Think about a person who is 60 years or 50 years old and he needs a wheelchair. How would he go to toilet? How would he go to various basic necessities which he needs? Just imagine the conditions. Okay, and then we have this thought process is that perception is that since he's guilty, the cruelty has to be there. So we need to be very cruel on him. So that's the thought process. So cases like Father Stan Swami, he was suffering for Parkinson's disease. Just imagine. So he couldn't even get a straw in sipper. Straw, very basic things, right? So he didn't get it. Next is your international convention. So laws are there. You have Nelson Mandela Rules 2015 mandate reasonable accommodation. Then you have UN Convention on Rights of Person with Disabilities, prohibits torture on inhuman treatment. Second. Third, Right of Person with Disabilities Act. This is Indian only, 2016. What it says? Access to essential items like food and fluids. So just imagine, are they getting it? They are not getting a sipper. Okay, they are not getting a wheelchair. Food and fluids are far enough. Then government guidelines. This is again Indian guidelines of 2016 Model Prison Manual. This we had discussed yesterday also when we were doing that prison tracking device. So specifies dignified living condition for prisoners. So good, it is something like that. Since I also cover a lot of security, we, every time we have a lot of agencies, but many times those agencies are not working or those guidelines were not being followed. I keep saying that, when agency is not working, more or less I'm talking what happened in the past. I keep on saying that we need to have a national security strategy so that we can define what every agency needs to be done. So we have laws here. It has to be executed by the executive. July 2024, MHA came with accessibility guidelines for prisons, requirement for accessibility infrastructure and services. Again, everything is on the papers. Barriers to enforcement. Biggest barrier is you and me, and that is the public perception. What is the public perception? Believe that cruelty is deserved. This is the major problem. Cruelty is deserved, fuels indifference and undermines political will for reforms. State responsibility. Eventually, prisons fall under state, so it's the state which needs to take care of it. Obviously, they can take the help from the center. Center can only make the guidelines, but the implementation of guidelines will happen from state. So, call to actions. The suffering of prisoners like Sai Baba, Professor Sai Baba, Father Stan Swami is a wake-up call. It should not be that one of these cases it gets an international coverage and then we start working, improvement in the conditions of our jail, because we have a very reactive approach. Rather than reactive, states needs to have a proactive approach in solving this problem. So a wonderful question has been put. Examine the challenges faced by prisoners with disabilities in Indian prisons, highlight the existing legal and policy framework and suggest measures to ensure accessibility and dignity for such prisons. A very much expected questions from within the UPSC limits, and I will definitely want that you write answers and put your answers in the comment section. In tidbits, US vetoes UN resolution calling for immediate ceasefire in Gaza, because whatever happens, US would be supporting Israel. They can talk about ceasefire, but here US is saying that we'll only do this we will not veto it until and unless we get the hostages, because Israel still has, Israel's around 60 to around 100 people, more than 100 people, they are still taken hostage by the Hamas in Gaza. So in extra mile, we have how does PM Vidya Lakshmi differ from other schemes? Please go through this article. Again, a wonderful article. And with this, we complete today's daily decodes, and I hope you did learn everything. And please do share the video. Please do press the bell icon, and you will get the PDF in some time. And all the offline audiences, whichever you are, thank you very much for being here. And do share the session with everyone. Thank you. Jai Hind and take care.